Around the Clock for Week 9. Yes, I am out of the studio today. We have technical difficulties in getting the Halloween stuff cleaned up. As a matter of fact, I've even gone as far as to channel my inner Todd Haley look for you guys today for this week's picks. But let's go beyond that. Let's get beyond last week's 1-2 dismal performance, which was all dismal because of a lousy chip shot of a field goal missed by the Minnesota Vikings to put that game in overtime to get the over. It was a lock if that had happened, but how do you miss that? We're not going to dwell on it. We could have easily went 2-1. This week we're going to go 3-0, starting with this pick. The 1 o'clock lock this week is Buffalo at home against the Jets. Now I know Buffalo usually in the second half of the season, after they do well, start to fall off the face of the earth and go down faster than Jeremy Mayfield on meth. However, that won't happen this week. Ryan Fitzpatrick, Stevie Johnson, Freddie Jackson, look for them to have an all-star performance here again in Orchard Park. I know they blew out Washington last week, and that's not going to affect them. They're playing against the rivalry. This is the game they're probably looking more forward to than the Washington game, and now they're here and they're ready to play. I don't believe in the Jets, never have, haven't really believed in them all year. Sanchez is not really that good of a quarterback. He's above average at best. I think the receivers there are starting to lose a little faith in him. I think Rex has put his foot in his mouth way too many times. I also think that Sean Green is probably not the running back they thought he was. And let's face it, they haven't really done it against any good teams. Buffalo is a very good team this year. They're looking at this game. They're -2. Now, I know Revis will be on the other side of the field. I know the defense of the Jets is pretty darn good. However, Buffalo has been able to move the ball against good teams, against good defenses, and they've been able to keep those defenses on the field long enough to where they can wear them down. You look for Fred Jackson just as a monster, tremendous second half. They've done it almost every game. Look for Buffalo to cover this game, -2 versus the Jets in Orchard Park. 4 o'clock game features Cincinnati at Tennessee. Now, Cincinnati is a much more improved team than anybody would have thought they would have been this year. And it took Andy Dalton and that young receiving core to refreshen that offense because they were just getting stale there with Palmer, who didn't want to be there, let's face it. And also with Ocho Stinko and Terrell Owens. They had a lot of bad weight, a lot of bad luggage, a lot of just negativity on that team, which is gone. Not to say Carson Palmer was a negative player, but that situation in Cincinnati just soured him, and now he's gone to the Raiders, which I hope he starts doing better, and you think he will this week. I definitely will not take the Raiders this week. I'm not going to give you that pick. But let's get on with this Cincinnati pick. Cincinnati has been playing well. They've been able to run the ball. They've been able to stop the ball and get turnovers. They've also been able to pass the ball with Dalton, like I was saying, to Simpson and some of the other receivers on that team that are young guys coming up. Tennessee, I don't know where they are. They have no identity in the backfield. Chris Johnson, after an unimpressive long holdout, a holdout that lasted longer than the Kardashian marriage, has now just put a damper on that team. It almost appears to me as if Chris Johnson is looking to hit the home run every time. He's not trying to get the other yardage. The other possibility that could have happened here, and I've heard this through the grapevine, through a source, he may have been actually on steroids and going into a contract year. He would have been tested, and he also would have had to go off the steroids. Occasionally, when athletes do go off of a steroid for a period of time, they go back, they're just not as good as they were. And I have a funny feeling that might be what happened. I don't know. You heard it here first. I heard it somewhere else. Just throwing that out there. But I don't look for them to do anything offensively. Hasselbeck has been pretty darn good this year. However, Cincinnati has been excellent on the turnovers. I think this is going to be a game that's going to be tight to a point. Tennessee is just going to get outmatched in the long run. Their defense hasn't really been all that well. Their special teams haven't been all that good. And like I said, they have no identity at the running back at this point. Kenny Brick being out did hurt them for a little bit, but now they have picked it up with Washington and a couple other players there, key players. Look for Cincinnati to take the +3, win this game outright. That's my 4 o'clock lock. 8 o'clock lock. Oh, boy, we got Baltimore, and it's actually an 8:20 game. I just call it the 8 o'clock lock because it's in that hour. We got Baltimore +3 at the Big Ketchup Bottle in Pittsburgh. Now, Ben Roethlisberger has been stellar there against the Ravens as he's gone 7-1 at home. The Ravens came off a game last week in which I think they were looking ahead to this week, to be honest with you. They played like crap in the first half, came back and actually wound up beating Arizona, who should have been beaten from the get-go in that game. However, they did come back to win. They didn't cover, but look for this game to be a tough game. Remember, they slugged it out. They beat the crap out of Pittsburgh first game of the season. Pittsburgh has since then suffered a lot of injuries. You're looking at injuries to Woodley, Darren Woodley, Jerome Harrison, Farrier. Those guys have been banged up. Key defensive players. Palomalu hasn't been, he's been playing good, but he's been a little bit dinged up also. I don't like Mendenhall in this game. I don't think he's been running well. To be honest with you, I think Redmond's much better running back at this point for them. But I look for Big Ben to get his passes in. I don't look for him to do what he's done the last game against New England. New England is one of the weaker defensive teams, and they proved it in that game when Pittsburgh totally took advantage of them and beat them up in the passing game. Don't look for that to happen here. Baltimore is much too tough on defense. I think they might have corrected a few things, and I know it was only a second half against Arizona, but I think they corrected a few things internally, and I think they got things on the right track. I look for Baltimore to take this game outright, plus the 3 points. Take Baltimore. That's my 8 o'clock lock. 1 o'clock, we got Buffalo. 4 o'clock, Cincinnati. 8 o'clock, Baltimore. Take it to the book. Take it to the bank. And until next week when we're back in the studio, you take it easy.